About a month ago, I guess I actually wrote another love poem for her. Yeah, just by coincidence. And coincidence being like after 25 years, and here it is. Here it is. Heart-shaped, it's called. My sweetheart was watching Flea Market Flip. A buyer had found an old chest of drawers for sale, its front all decoupaged up with a bunch of love letters some lady had left inside it. So that now, when you go to get your nightie out, you can sit there and read a few soft words first. She looked at me with that look and said, "When are you going to write me another..." I'm sorry. Okay, start again on that one. She looked at me with that look and said, "When are you going to write me another love poem? It's been so long," and laughed, not wanting to hurt. She still has my old first one from when we were head over heels in that little heart-shaped box, and opens it now and then. That's my love poem to Linda. After 25 years, the same as ever, you know. We suit each other pretty good. This is definitely a different, this is a little more masculine thing. This is called Cowboy Heaven. I grew up in southern Alberta, which is real cowboy heaven. This here is a little different, as you'll see. Real cowboys, you know, all of us. I grew up on a farm. We were all, you know, I remember riding a steer when I was 14 and falling off head first into the ground, all that kind of stuff, right? So when a guy in that kind of a situation goes for therapy, he doesn't go to a therapist, he does something really strange. Like, I spent 3 years, 7 months a year, backpacking, canoeing, bicycling across Canada for therapy for my anxiety. And of course it just made my anxiety worse, but in any case, that's what I did. And I ended up bicycling into St. John's, Newfoundland, really disappointed with myself, feeling like, my God, after all this work, I'm still the same guy, and what am I going to do? If I go home now, life will never be any different. And so I decided in my desperation to pedal backwards to a provincial park just outside of St. John's, and I had passed on the way in, and it was just closed for the season. I pitched my tent back in the bush, and I had read somewhere that poetry is the way into the subconscious. So I read poetry, memorized poetry, and wrote poetry for the next month and a half. And this is a situation that happened after about 3 weeks in there, called Cowboy Heaven. I wandered out of the darkening forest to catch the last warmth of the November sun, and found a group of Wild West cowboys there in that closed provincial park on the eastern end of the continent. For a while, the trees and I stood observing their strange intrusion, with their steady, slow chatter like smoke from a fire, till they spotted me and invited me over, or at least the talking one did. And what a lot of talk it was for a cowboy. Even though he wore a bandana just right, and a warm winter vest and leather chaps, and on his head the hat of a stalwart U.S. cavalry officer with a little round tin of chawing tobacco back in his hip pocket. He probably even used it. A fire sputtered yellow in the iron grill that the park provided with the picnic table. And their horses, still saddled, sniffed the ground under the fir trees. He introduced me. "Boys," he said, "meet a cowboy from out west." "Where'd you say?" "Calgary." He glanced up at me uneasily and talked on. Coffee simmered in a tin can. Whiskey was handy in a flask. Most had leather chaps on. One was peeing off to the side. I said, "There are ranches that still round up cattle by horse out west." A young guy looked up from the fire and said, "That's what he'd really like." And I could see it in him, as quiet as a prairie night. And then the talking cowboy said, "Some do. Some of the boys will be working here, but come the first cool weather, you'll see them loading up their bags. Them that don't get saddled with a wife, that is, they'll mosey on down south, maybe hitch up with an outfit in Texas, then work the winter in Wyoming." Not him, though. Not without his buddies behind him. We drank the good strong coffee that was boiling in the big tin cup with a gulp of whiskey from the flask, but night was moving in. They saddled up one at a time, and finally, out of a good old movie, the cavalry officer shouts, "Yo!" And they pulled out, with a sound of hooves clattering on gravel and someone whistling, "On the road again." I wandered along the chilly lake shore, watching Venus and Mars follow the trail of the sun over the western horizon, and the stars blooming all around me. As I gazed out past the moon into that great spread of the galaxy, I wondered how many real cowboys up there were sitting contentedly by themselves beside their fires on prairie planets, gazing up like me into the blossoming heavens, just whittling some wood or humming a tune.